Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here. Today's video is going to be book recommendations or like a book review because I get a lot of questions as to like what are my favorite horse books, both just for, general horse owners that want to learn more and also for people that are equine body workers or thinking about becoming equine body workers. There's so many books out there that are available, and today I'm just going to show you some of my favorites. I'm coming to you today from my front porch because the weather is beautiful on this October day, and you might hear some birds, you might hear some cars. We're just keeping it really casual for this video. So just a quick little introduction. I fell in love with horses when I was 6 years old. I started reading about them and my mom just could not get me enough horse books. We were constantly going to the library looking for all of the horse books that they had. I think there were even a couple arguments with the librarians because we were checking out too many books. So it's safe to say that I am a book lover, and since 6 years old, when I first fell in love with horses, I have read a lot of horse books, and then now as a body worker, leaning more into the anatomy and the biomechanics and that side of horse book knowledge as well. All of these book recommendations today are books that I have personally read and enjoyed, and I think that they are beneficial both to horse owners that just want to deepen their knowledge of the horse. I think that's always a good idea. And then also for equine professionals or people thinking of getting into a bodywork field. So for these book recommendations, I'm going to be breaking the books down into 5 categories. So the first category is going to be equine anatomy, followed by conformation, followed by lameness and just like general health books and hoof care. And then to finish it off, we'll have some books that are kind of groundwork, training, riding, rehab based. So to start off with, this book really didn't fit into any of my other categories, but I did want to mention it because this is my favorite horse breed book. This is the official horse breed standard guide. And, we've all read those books that are just, horse breeds, horse colors, horse disciplines, the basic horse books. I think this is the best out of all of those books. So each page, or I should say each breed, has multiple pages, multiple pictures, and they really go into depth and into detail on, what made all of those breeds, the history behind them, the standards of the breeds. And I've been able to learn some things from this book that I haven't learned in other books. So personally, this one is a favorite of mine just for general like horse breeds and colors and markings and everything. This book also has some really cool pictures that I feel like you don't typically see in books. Like, for example, this page is talking about brindle horses, which is very, very rare marking in horses for them to be brindle like this. Here's another page showing the brindle horses. So I don't know, I just think that this book is really neat, really interesting, and I wanted to include it here. Okay, let's jump right into equine anatomy books. So this book, which is the Atlas of the Equine Musculoskeletal System, and it's by Ivana Ruddock-Lang. This is probably the #1 anatomy book in my opinion. So this one is expensive. You do have to purchase it directly through Ivana's website, but it's a really, really cool book. So I'll show you a couple pages in here. This book is very, very much a visual picture book. So she goes into depth on like things that you don't really see elsewhere. Like this page is kind of detailing the flexion and extension of the vertebrae in the back. Ivana's done a lot of research and a lot of dissections, so I find her book to be very accurate and showing detail that a lot of other anatomy books don't give you. Like I said, this book is very, very visual, so there isn't much text, there's not much written description. She's just kind of laying out all of the anatomy and going, here's what it all looks like. And she's doing that in a depth that you really don't see in other anatomy books. So this is a book that I highly recommend for anyone who is an equine body worker or thinking about becoming an equine body worker. Here's a page. So you can see here on the top that we have actual dissection photos of the forelimb muscles, and then down here on the bottom we have more drawings of that. So yeah, if you are an equine body worker, this book is a must-have. It is expensive. You have to buy it directly from Ivana's website, but it's definitely one that you want to have. Next, I have 2 books, which are from Jillian Higgins. And Jillian Higgins makes really, really good visual examples of anatomy by painting it onto horses, onto live horses. And she explained things in a way that is very simple yet detailed. So it's a good resource really for anyone who wants to learn more about equine anatomy. So the 2 books of hers that I have are How Your Horse Moves, and then this one is Posture and Performance. But she has a ton of books out there. She also has online resources, and honestly, I really recommend anything of hers. It's all really good. I'll just show you an example in this book of what I'm talking about. So here you can see how she paints the muscles onto the horse and has a, the horse goes through different movements like that. So you can really see the muscle action. You can see how the bones all move. And it's just a really, really cool way of learning equine anatomy. It makes it very fun. So this book, How Your Horse Moves, is more anatomy based. And then this book, Posture and Performance, is a little bit based more so on like rehabbing the horse with stretches, with groundwork exercises, and then how the horse moves when ridden. So just for an example of that, this page is talking about hard ground versus soft ground, hills when you go uphill or downhill. So anything by Jillian Higgins is just good information for all horse owners to have. Next we have Horse Anatomy, a coloring atlas. This is one of my personal favorites because I am very much a hands-on learner. So if you are learning anatomy and struggling to remember it, this is a really good resource because it is a coloring book. So on the top of the page, they have it listed as, the different structures in the body, and then on the bottom page is where you can actually color it in. Now we have Anatomy of the Horse, an illustrated text. I am not going to try to pronounce the names of the authors, but they are veterinarians from Germany. This book is interesting because it's very, very detailed on specific areas of the body. So this page that I'm going to show you as an example is the skull, but like specifically talking about the hyoid apparatus and the sinus cavity. So you can just see from this page how detailed this book is. I find this book to be one of the best at showing the nerves and blood vessels of the horse. So this is a book I would say could be a little more in-depth than what the average horse owner needs, but if you are an equine body worker or an equine professional of some sort, this is a good book to have in your collection. Okay, and then to finish off the anatomy books, I have 2 here that are kind of along the same lines. So this one is called Equine Myofascial Kinetic Lines for Professionals, and this was written by 3 veterinarians. And basically what they did was they dissected horses and found that horses have these myofascial lines throughout their body, these chains of connective tissue. And so I really like this book because it goes into depth as to like how and why horses have the dysfunction that they do. It helps you identify different patterns of dysfunction within the body. So for example, this page I'm going to show you is showing the superficial dorsal line. So that's the line of connective tissue going along the top line of the horse, like from their head to their tail, and actually even further down from their tail. But a horse that has dysfunction in their dorsal line might look something like this. Okay, their posture and their muscle development might be like that because their superficial dorsal line isn't functioning properly. So this book is really cool for really anyone because it shows you some of the anatomy, it shows you dissection photos, then it shows you photos like that of the horse's posture and movement and some signs that they might have dysfunction within certain chains. And then the other cool thing about this book is they actually have different tests that you can do with your horse to see if they have dysfunction within different myofascial lines and how those lines can be treated to help the horse. This book is really cool. They also have some video tutorials showing you the different exercises that you can do to like test your horse's mobility. So I really, really recommend this one. It's super interesting. Now, along those same lines, this is actually the original book. It is called Anatomy Trains, and it is by Thomas Myers. This is the human book. So this was actually the beginning of the myofascial line theory. It was first discovered by Thomas Myers, and he wrote this book about it, and it is based on humans. So the book I just showed you was a team of veterinarians that went out and they took Thomas's work and they translated it over to horses. I will confess, I have not personally read this book yet. I bought both books at the same time, and I felt that the human book was very in-depth and that the horse book, being a horse professional, it might be easier for me to start with the horse book and understand the theory behind that one first before jumping into the human book. So this is actually the next book on my book list to read. So while I don't work on humans, I do think this book is going to be pretty educational as an equine body worker. I think it would also be useful for horse trainers or like riding instructors, because the dysfunction in our human bodies definitely has an effect on the dysfunction in the horses' bodies. So here's a little example from this book. You can see they have super cool pictures. It's super in depth. And yeah, I'm excited to get started with this one because I think it's only going to help my body work. Moving into the next category, we have equine conformation. So equine conformation is the study of how the horse's body is built. So conformation is primarily talking about the horse's bone structure, the structure that you can't change, but some of it also refers to the horse's muscle development and their posture, which we know through body work is actually a little bit changeable. So my personal favorite conformation book is this one. This is Principles of Conformation Analysis, Volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Deb Bennett. The reason that I love this book so much is because Deb Bennett really goes into detail explaining the why behind the conformation book. If you read some other books, they will list it like, well, this horse has a good back and this horse has a bad back, and they don't really explain the why. Deb Bennett does a really good job explaining the why behind the horse's conformation. This book has really, really good visual examples. So she has lots and lots of pictures of horses with different types of conformation. I would say if I had one complaint about this book, it's that the pictures are pretty small and they are all black and white. So sometimes it can be hard to visualize exactly what she's saying. I don't know if this book is available maybe in a larger print or in color. I would like to see this updated to, just make the pictures a little bit more crisp and clear so that you can, get a better idea of what she's saying. But overall, this is definitely my favorite conformation book. Here is another horse conformation book that I really like. This is Horse Conformation, Structure, Soundness, and Performance by Equine Research. I actually really like Equine Research because all of their books are the collaborative effort of multiple veterinarians, so you get multiple opinions on a book. This book is a little more basic than Deb Bennett's as far as explaining why the conformation is good or bad. But what I really like about this book is they have really good anatomy visuals. So it's good to see, the external conformation that you're looking at as well as the more internal anatomy structures. For example, this page is showing the conformation of the hind limb, so they're giving you an example of what that looks like in the bone structure, and then they're giving you examples of what that looks like in, real living everyday horses. Okay, the next category that we're going into is equine health and lameness. So this is a big category, and it's one that I recommend pretty much for anyone who works around horses, whether you own horses or work with horses or whatever the case may be. The more that you understand horse health and the more you can identify signs of problems, the better. Starting off, we have Horse Owners Veterinary Handbook. I believe they also have this book for dogs and cats as well. This book is super detailed, super in-depth. It's written by multiple people. So like here, you can see this is what a horse might look like if it has laminitis. Good to know the signs and symptoms of that and what it looks like. This is information that every horse owner should know. This book also goes into detail on the different body systems. So like the digestive system, the nervous system, the respiratory system. So pretty much any like health related issue that a horse can have is going to be listed in this book. So this is a really good one for everybody. Along those same lines, we have this book. This is the Horseman's Veterinary Encyclopedia. And again, this one is by Equine Research, so written by multiple veterinarians. The reason that I like this one is it's written kind of differently. So in this book, they present questions. So for example, let's see, shock. So when a horse goes into shock, they have a whole section on what that is, but they present it as questions. So what is shock? What are the signs of shock? What causes this condition? So I like this book just because it's written kind of differently, asking questions. I'll show you this page for example. So what is inflammation? What are the signs of inflammation? They present it as questions and answers. And again, this is another book that's really detailed with anatomy stuff. They have, a lot of in-depth pictures and drawings and even some x-rays. Now this book is just called Lameness. I'm sure every horse owner feels this one deep in their core, lameness. This is the thickest book in my collection because there's about 500 ways that your horse can go lame. This is again by Equine Research. It's a really good book. And this one, is going to have similar information as this Horseman's Veterinary Guide. There's a little bit of crossover because both of them are written by Equine Research. But yeah, this book in particular, Lameness by Equine Research, it goes in depth on pretty much every single way that a horse can go lame. Here is a picture from this one. I think, again, this is a book that is useful for any horse owner to have. It can help you narrow down, why exactly your horse is lame. Obviously, you still need a veterinarian, but it can help narrow down the process for you. So between these three nice chunky books, that is a lot of your equine health and lameness stuff. I think all three of these are good for every horse person to have. But I do have a couple other health books that I do want to highlight on because they're pretty interesting. This book is the Complete Holistic Care and Healing for Horses by Mary L. Brennan. So this book is similar to the ones that I just showed you, but it is focused more holistically. So you can still learn things about common, issues in horses, colic, laminitis, that type of thing, but there is more of a holistic, natural focus to it. So like this page is showing you stretches that you can do with your horse. It also, goes into detail telling you about alternative methods of treatment, acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, all of those types of things. So this book is maybe not, one of my personal favorites that I refer to all the time, but it is a good book to have on your shelf because they do present some ideas that you might not necessarily be thinking of, and sometimes there is a more natural, holistic way that you can help your horse with, some of these common issues. Last but not least, for our horse healthcare and lameness, I want to talk about this book. So this is Equine Lameness for the Layman, and it's written by G. Robert Grizzle, who is a veterinarian, and he made this book basically for horse owners to be able to identify lameness in their horses better. This book is, honestly, I think that the name is a little misleading. It's Equine Lameness for the Layman, so it's supposed to make it pretty, easy for the average horse owner. I will say it is kind of detailed and in-depth, but it's a really good book on lameness. Again, I think this book is really useful for helping horse owners to identify lameness because there's 500 things out there that could cause lameness, but when you have this knowledge, it can help you narrow down that window to maybe 20 things that you could talk about with your veterinarian and get more of a specific idea of what is going on with your horse. The other thing I really like about this book is that they have these little QR codes. So everything that they explain in the book, you can actually look up videos and they will show you horses with those different types of lamenesses. So again, for people like me that are more of like a visual or hands-on type of learner, this is a really, really useful book. Lameness is a very complex topic, but I think with the visuals, it's really, really helpful. All right, the next category that I want to talk about is hooves, which honestly probably could have gone back in that same category of, you know, horse care and lameness, because the saying no hoof, no horse is definitely true. I think that every single horse owner should be as educated as they possibly can on horse hooves, because the hooves really are the foundation for the entire body. This book, the Essential Hoof Book, is very much essential in my opinion. I think everyone should have this book. This book is written by Susan Kaufman and Christina Klein, and the reason I love this book so much is they have a lot of really good visuals. So they have both drawings and 3D models explaining what they're talking about. So here you can see in this book they have some 3D models on this page, and then over here they're talking about the navicular bone. They do a really good job showing, you know, just the basic anatomy of the hooves and then also the pathology of the hooves of what can go wrong with them. So like here we have an example of underrun heels, which is a very common issue in horses. I just think this book is great. Unfortunately, this is actually the only book in my collection right now on hoof care. So if you guys have any other really good recommendations on hooves, definitely send those my way, because like I said, the more that we can learn and understand hooves, the better. I want to hear those hoof book recommendations, so make sure that you comment them below. Now moving into our last category, we have the books that don't really fit anywhere else. These are more groundwork, rehab, training, riding based books. Starting off, I have this book. This is, I know, a personal favorite for many body workers. This is Physical Therapy for Horses. You know, this book really doesn't even fit into any of those categories that we already talked about. It's a little bit of bodywork stuff. It's a little bit of rehab stuff. It talks about, you know, different types of modalities, taping, stretching, anatomy. This is just a really neat book for anyone, whether you're a horse owner who's interested in some bodywork stuff or a professional body worker. This is like a must-have book. So again, this is another book that has good anatomy visuals like this. And then further back in the book, they actually talk about some specific bodywork things that people can do with their horses. Here's another page showing this. This is some tail pull and stretching exercises that you can do. So just really good details, really good explanations on everything. I really recommend this book for anyone. It's definitely a favorite of mine. Next up, we have 55 Corrective Exercises for Horses by Jack Ballou. And this is, again, if you own a horse, this is a must-have book. So what goes on in this book is Jack Ballou shows different things that you can do with your horses, both under saddle and on the ground. So, for example, starting off, you have a lot of pole work type of exercises or hill work type of exercises to help make your horse stronger, more supple, more obedient to the aids. She also has like problem solving sections. So for example, this says that if your horse, say that your horse is crooked or like one-sided dominant, she has a specific protocol of, you know, which exercises from the book to do and how often, how many reps. So this is a really, really good book for resolving issues in horses. In the middle portion of this book, there is actually like a bodywork section, and that section is written by Jim Masterson, who is the creator of the Masterson method of massage. So, you know, you're really correcting your horse from all angles here. You're helping them get stronger and more symmetrical and more balanced, both on the ground and under saddle and with bodywork techniques. I also believe that Jack Ballou has other resources. I know she has a YouTube channel. I believe she has a book specifically on lunging, so definitely check out her stuff. Next, we have a book called Tug of War, Classical versus Modern Dressage. Now, this book is written by a German writer and veterinarian. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name here, but this book came highly recommended as a book that kind of everyone should read. This book includes both some really nice anatomy drawings and then also visual examples of how horses move in different ways based on how they're ridden. So this is primarily a riding book, although there's also some anatomy stuff as well. So here's one of the anatomy pages, for example. And this doctor, this veterinarian and rider, really goes into depth as to like how we ride the horses based on their anatomy. So I would say that this book is primarily a riding and biomechanics based book. I do find this book to be a little bit simple. It doesn't go really in depth on any one topic, but I think this is a good book for any rider to read. And the very last book I want to talk about today is this one. This is Equine Biomechanics for Riders. To be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the author of this book and like what her experience is, but I do really like this book. I find this one to be a lot more in depth on biomechanics than the previous Tug of War book. So for example, in this book, we have a lot of different anatomy drawings like this to show you how different areas of the body function and how different muscles move. This book has some really good visual examples, not only of the anatomy, but how that anatomy, again, affects the horses and the way that they're ridden. So this book is very, rider biomechanics focused. I recommend this book for really anyone who rides or trains or teaches lessons. This book goes into a lot of detail on how and why specific movements work, so it's also really good for equine professionals, body workers or farriers, anything like that. So that's it for my book review, my book recommendations. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear in the comments if you have any book recommendations, because I'm always looking to learn more and expand my library, and I'm sure that other equestrians are as well. So feel free to leave your book recommendations in the comments below, and I will definitely be checking out those books. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave it a like and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. With that being said, I hope that you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.